Hello? Hello? Is anybody out there?
Welcome to All the Shit with Tom and Will. This is the Quick Hit Weekly. Welcome back to All the Shit with Tom and not Will this week. It's October, playoff baseball's going on. What better time to call in a clutch pinch hitter than when your buddy goes down with a spinal tap? So, Anna, welcome to All the Shit.
Thank you for having me.
I think anyone who's listened to the podcast, all five of them, probably know you from the stories I've told, whether it's the pirate flag emoji or the whole car incident that we went through. People finally getting to put a beautiful face to a name. Sorry, Will. I think if we get a lot more views on this particular episode, you might be out for the count. Or you'll have to wear a wig, one of the two. I felt like this is a good opportunity to talk through some issues that are more pertinent or relevant to female listeners. Because when Will and I do this, the whole point of it is to answer questions and give guidance and perspective based on our experience. But our experience is completely from the male side of things, obviously. And while we disagree sometimes on what the right course of action might be or what type of guidance to give, it's a completely different ballgame to try and give guidance to a female. So I think this is a good opportunity, and I'm grateful that you're willing to step in. Off the top, we usually do just a little bit of bullshitting, and we bullshit all the time, you and I, so I'm no stranger to that. But can you tell me a little bit about the particulars of the spinal tap procedure?
Just basic information. They stick a needle in your lower back in a specific space, and they get spinal fluid out with the needle, and then they test that to see if it looks like you have any type of infection or for whatever reason that they're testing it.
Cool. So fingers crossed for you, Will. Hope all those tests come back negative.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, we'll keep your seat warm. So let's look at some of these questions. One of the things that I know you're passionate about that you've talked about a lot is counseling women who are struggling with eating issues, whether it's an eating disorder or just trying to learn how to eat better, cleaner. I know that's a very personal thing for you. So would you feel okay talking about a question that pertains to that topic?
Sure.
All right, so here's the question. In school, I've been noticing my friend not eating at all, and I don't know how to bring it up without triggering her. I know this subject is fragile, so I want to take baby steps on it with her, but I'm worried for her. I know this is serious, and I want to help in the best way possible. How do I go about it and bring it up?
Wow, that is hard. I guess I'd start by asking this individual if they've ever talked about eating issues or feeling like they were overweight. You kind of have to establish if there's a comfort level in talking about something like that, because it could go one of two ways, or go many ways. But she could be open to listening, or she could get real defensive and accuse the friend that's worried about her that she's just jealous. I've had situations like that go both ways. So I think it's important to be very delicate in how you approach it. And so you'd have to start with, okay, what is this friendship? Is this an acquaintance? And why am I concerned? Am I concerned because I'm jealous and she's losing weight? Or am I actually concerned because I think there's something wrong, something going on? I'd probably think about if she's been stressed or something major happened at school, or I'm not sure how old this individual is, but I know that for me, when I get stressed, I don't eat. And I know that's often the opposite of majority of people is, you take a pint of Ben & Jerry's and eat it when you're stressed. It's much more common than not eating. But physiologically, when I feel stressed or anxious about something, I don't even think about it. I just don't eat. I think it comes down to being able to control something for me. The easiest thing, or one of the easiest things to control when you're stressed is what you put in your mouth. If I feel out of control and anxious about whatever it may be, subconsciously I'm telling myself I can control what I put in my mouth. And so I will vigilantly control that. And then that gives me some semblance of control over the situation in my life that I'm anxious about.
I appreciate you talking through your own experience with it. It's also my experience with it, because we've been married for 13 years. I've seen you go through different cycles with this.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part at first was even getting you to realize that it was a problem and that there was an issue. What was that like in discovery for you? What did it take for you to discover that that was truly an issue and not just that, oh, I'm working out and that's why I'm so lean? How did you ultimately come to realize that it was an issue? And did you also have people who brought it up to you outside of me?
I think my initial reaction to you bringing it up was very defensive. Because again, like I said, it's a subconscious thing. It's not like I'm anxious and feel stressed, I'm not going to eat. It happens almost without your knowledge in a sense. And then what tended to happen for me is it would spiral out of control to the point where then I would look in the mirror and be like, holy shit, this is not good. What happened? Like, how did I go from healthy to this? And I think I've always struggled with disordered eating all the way back to when I was in gymnastics as a young girl. And I don't know if it was the culture of that, because no one ever said straight out, no, you better not get fat. But it was implied that you better watch what you eat so that you're able to look a certain way or perform a certain way. And I think I developed that disordered eating at a very young age. And I'm sure there were people in my life growing up that would say things. And definitely nursing school was a catalyst for me. That was probably the one area that I realized, okay, this behavior is caused by stress and feeling like I don't have control of things, because I completely felt that way in nursing school. And if I think back to other areas in my life when I, difficult relationships and breakups and things like that, I would go through that same pattern. When initially, the first several years, when you'd bring it up, I'd get mad at you and defensive. And that's where I say proceed with caution to this individual who's concerned about her friend, because it's very easy for someone in that situation, for whatever reason that they're doing it, to take it the wrong way or to feel defensive about it, even if they know what they're doing is wrong, or even if they know what they're doing is intentional. Because in a way, you're taking away from them, whether it's, oh, I feel good because I'm skinny now, or oh, I feel good because I can control something. You're threatening to take that power from them. And that's maybe the only thing that they feel they can cling to at that point or moment in their life. For me, I think I had to really, and I still have to really work through it. Like, I have to allow myself to feel those uncomfortable emotions and feelings and realize that they won't consume me, and realize that it's not a healthy way of coping with stress or anxiety. But I also know it's something that I'll always deal with my whole life. It's not something that will go away. It's something that I've gotten much better at dealing with. But even recently with work, there was a position change, more responsibility. And I remember calling my mom and just bawling and saying, I don't know how I got where I am, but I've lost, I don't know how much weight. And I don't even know how this happened. But I remember being so mad at myself because I thought that that's in my past. That's behind me. This is not something that I'm going to ever go back to. And I did. I think the more aware you are of it, the more capable you are to handle it in healthier ways and recognize it early before it gets out of hand.
Were you aware of it when you were younger? When did you become aware of it? You said nursing school was the first time that you really were aware of
I
it.
remember thinking back when I was a gymnast, gosh, I had to have been 10 maybe, but looking in the pantry at my parents' house and just feeling like, gosh, there's nothing in here I can eat, because I can't eat anything that has more than 3 grams of fat. Where the hell I got 3 grams and why fat, who knows? But I remember that very clearly. But other than that, in my childhood and then nursing school, those were the two main things from my past that I remember. And if I really think about it, I can think about when we moved cross country. We moved from Colorado to Virginia. I tried really hard for 6 months to actually gain weight. And at that point, I don't think I was super underweight when I decided to do that. I was working with a macros coach and I wanted to put on lean muscle, and I knew it was going to be supposedly healthier. And so I did that, and I was 12 pounds heavier than my normal weight. And then we moved here and all that structure went out the window, and I went back to old habits and patterns that felt natural. So like I said, it's always going to be something that I have to intentionally be aware of.
I think at this age, we're talking about high school, being aware of what the root cause of that is the hardest thing. And I think most people probably don't know that at that age.
But if you can start to dig into that, if you can start to just question that, you have the potential to avoid a very devastating eating disorder as you get older and into your adulthood.
So you have a friend here who is very keen to help, but she doesn't know how or how to bring it up. Was there anyone that approached you in a way that you felt seen but not attacked? Or alternatively, I know that you've worked with other friends or other acquaintances through the gym or work. How have you approached them successfully to just voice your concern without it coming off as an attack?
So I think knowledge is power. That sounds cliche, but the one person that I remember making a difference for me in the way I thought about it was a sports therapist. I think it was a psychological sports therapist for women with eating disorders or disordered eating of some sort. And I saw her out and I met with her, and she really helped me see where my issues were. But probably the most helpful thing for me was talking to other people going through what I had been through. Or maybe I hadn't been through it, but had a lens into what they were seeing or feeling that I could say, this is what you don't want to do. And in talking through that, I gained a lot of insight into my own behaviors and disordered eating. I don't really have a statement or a list of things to tell this person to say to their friend.
So from someone like me who has never dealt with this problem personally, my way of approaching it, and this is where I want you to tell me where I'm wrong and how wrong I am, but I would try and ask them, especially if we're close and we hang out regularly, if you don't know what's going on in their life, ask, what's going on? Are you okay? Is something bothering you? Don't even mention it as related to the eating thing, but just approach it as if you just know that something is wrong, and let them come out with yes or no. And no is probably a denial because you're seeing this change, you're seeing them not eating, but give them an opportunity to share with you and be vulnerable with you without bringing the elephant into the room, even though that person will probably intuit that's what you're referencing or that's what you've seen. But if you can approach it without directly saying that, is that one way to look at?
Yeah, I think you have to be very tactful about what you say and how you say it. But if you are genuinely concerned about this person and you are good friends, then yeah, I don't think that would be anything that, if it were me, that I would take as something that bothered me. But like I said, it's a very touchy subject with women, and I'm not doing a very good job of explaining why. And I know you can't really get it because you're not a woman. But I don't think there'd be anything wrong with just asking, hey, what's going on? I've noticed you've lost some weight. Are you stressed? What's up? And just see where the conversation goes.
On the flip side of that, what were some of the things that I said to you that pissed you off the most? Knowing that every time I said anything about it, I'd been thinking about it for hours, if not days, how I was going to phrase it and how I was going to approach it. And I crashed and burned almost every single time. I think part of that was, like you mentioned, you felt attacked regardless of how softly I thought I was walking. Anything on what not to do?
Don't say things like, you look sick, or you're wasting away to nothing. What happened? What's happening to you? Why are you doing this? I do very clearly remember towards the end of nursing school, I was burning the wick at both ends, and I was waking up at the butt crack of dawn and running outside and then coming back to take a shower and get ready to go to class. And I remember one morning, it was dark, and my dad was waiting for me on the other side of the door, and I opened the door and he's like, this has got to stop. You are not okay. And he didn't say anything about weight or exercise or anything, but I knew exactly what he meant when he said it. And I think he didn't say anything specific because he didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to say it. But that stuck in my head. And at that point, I decided, at least through that event, that I was gonna change. And slowly but surely I did. Yeah, I mean, just don't come at it in an accusatory manner. You're not gonna get anywhere with that. I think what you said about coming at it I just want to understand what's going on, and if you need help or if there's something that you want to talk about or if whatever. And then just be okay if they're not there yet, if they're not ready to talk about it. And don't give up, and don't talk about them behind their back or whatever. Just let them know that you're a confidant and that they can tell you if they get to the point where they feel like it or if they ever want to talk about it. But just showing up and being there for them and supporting them. And complimenting them for something other than the way they look. Because nowadays, women, we have this idea that we are our appearance. And if you've had the luxury of being complimented, and I wouldn't even call it a luxury, I would call it a curse, actually, your whole life about the way you look, then when those looks ultimately start fading because we all get older and things change, you don't know who you are because everything you are is what you look like. And so when those things start changing and fading and you don't look like the quintessential youthful, beautiful woman, then you've lost yourself. One thing my mom told me when she was 50, I believe, is because she's one of those perfect examples. We would go out on vacations, her and I, and when I was a teenager, we'd go on cruises, just the two of us, this and that. And I can't tell you how many times I got asked who's the mom. She still is so beautiful, and she kept her youth well into her later years. But she started to change and notice that, even though none of us did. And she told me one day, don't wait until you're 50 to find out who you are outside of what you look like. Because it is a much harder battle when you've lived for that for so many years. Because there's so much more to you than your appearance. And your beauty is so much deeper than what people see on the outside. So start to develop that, start to care about that, start to nurture that, because that is what lasts. And I think that's excellent advice. And I'm trying at 40 to embrace that and to look for those things. So I know that this person is probably a teenager and that's the last thing on their mind because you think you're going to be youthful and perfect forever, but that is not true.
Well, you're still perfect in my eyes.
At least there's one.
I think that's all really awesome feedback. I don't have much to add to that, honestly. I do remember having a friend go through that in high school, and from my perspective, just noticing how incredibly gaunt she got. And she was my girlfriend's best friend. So I got to see firsthand how that affected her and how much worry she had around her friend. At the time, I didn't know how truly dangerous and life-threatening that disease can be. Thankfully, she turned out fine, and she's healthy now, married, kids, normal life. It was pretty sketchy there for a minute, so I understand certainly how this person can be very concerned. I think that's a good place to segue into the next question, actually. Yeah. Referring to your mom and the advice that she gave you, which I think is awesome. And Jeannie, you're gorgeous.
Damn straight. Always will be.
I think it's awesome that you found that truth and that you're living it. And thank you for sharing that with Anna so that she could now share it with all the young ladies coming up behind you guys. So this kind of ties into that topic. This is from a 16-year-old girl. And she says, I've never felt pretty. I can't even look at myself in the mirror or even pictures without breaking down crying. I see all these girls at my school, and even if some aren't popular, everyone is better looking than me. They all are in or have been in a relationship. While for me, no one has ever shown romantic interest in me, and I can only guess that's because of my appearance. Nothing has worked. I've tried everything. I've dramatically lost weight and gained weight. I've changed my clothes and styles multiple times, but nothing seems to help me. I'm tired of feeling like this. I don't want to end up alone for the rest of my life and die alone. How do I stop feeling like this?
Ugh. My heart breaks for this girl. 16 is so hard as a female.
I think 16 sucks for everybody for the most part. There's a lot of hype around it, but for most people, I feel like it's still just a shitty time in life. It's very difficult. It's a lot to navigate. And I do agree that for women in particular, when it comes to looks and aesthetics, there's so much more pressure on women. I think guys feel it too, but there's less of a stigma attached to being a single guy than being a single girl. And that's completely unfair and ridiculous that there is a double standard.
There's a shit ton of double standards between men and women.
I know. I'm saying all this with my tail between my legs already because I know there's no way to defend it.
No, you're one of the good ones out there.
I try really hard, and I still suck most of the time.
Not true.
But yeah, man, it is tough.
Yeah. I guarantee that she sees herself in a much darker light than her peers do. We're all our own worst critics, and we all have insecurities that we magnify. One thing I like to remind myself is no one cares as much about me as I do, in the sense of no one cares as much about what I look like or what I weigh or what I wear as I do. We hold ourselves to these ridiculous standards, especially now with social media and touch-ups and photos and cameras, and it's impossible to look like the people that we are exposed to, especially if as young as 6-year-olds or even younger have phones that are constantly being reinforced that this is what a woman should look like. This is what makes you successful and happy in life, is being the man and wearing this or having this style or weighing this much. And it's bullshit. If I could encourage her, it would be to figure out who she is authentically. Who is she outside of what she wears, what she looks like, who likes her, what does she enjoy, what lights her up, and focus on those things. Because sometimes when we're so fixated on ourselves and what we look like and our popularity, we're not shining who we really are. Confidence is an extremely attractive thing. And I think you've told me that. And men have said that about women. And women think the same thing about men, I think. But men, I feel like, naturally have an easier time at faking confidence or just being confident in general. Women, I think, unless you have what society says is a reason to be confident physically, you're in a relationship at this age and you have a date to the prom, or as you get older, you have a successful job or a nice car, whatever it may be. That's not who you are. Those are things in your life, but they don't make you. So find out what makes you happy. Find out what lights you up. and pursue those things and stop worrying about trying to fit into a box that you're maybe not meant to fit in. And you're going to attract, with that confidence and with that identity, you're going to attract the kind of boyfriend or man or friends that see you for who you are and something that will actually last, that's not surfacey.
I think that's way overlooked. And it's so easy to overlook it, especially in high school, because social capital is so valuable. But if you have an opportunity to get to find out who you are, what you're truly interested in at this age, you're going to be ahead of a lot of people, because I certainly know people from high school that were in the popular crowd that had all of the things that this young woman is aspiring to be and have. And down the road, you find out you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. You spent your whole childhood, your adolescence, your formative years trying to make yourself into what you think other people like. And you can't win that way.
No,
your life's going to be
a perfect example of that. I mean, I did have boyfriends in high school, and I attracted all the wrong kinds of guys, all the bad boys, and that's who I was attracted to. But I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted to do. They like to watch football. Oh, I love football. They want to go party. I love partying. Let's go do that. I just did whatever I thought they wanted me to do. I became whoever I thought they wanted me to be. And that never ends well, because you're a fake. You're not your authentic self. And that might be a lot to ask a 16-year-old to really dive into, but I don't think it's impossible. And if I could go back to 16-year-old me, gosh, the lessons that I've learned from the things I've done and the mistakes that I've made are very important and have made me the person that I am. But man, if I could go back and change some of the things that I told myself, or some of the things that I thought were important at that age. You don't need a man. You don't need to have the newest clothes or be in style. You don't need a big group of friends. You don't need to be afraid of missing out. If you like to sit at home and read books on the weekend, do that. If you like to play chess, do that. Whatever it may be. You're going to attract people that are good for you because they recognize who you truly are.
Yeah, if you are out doing what you love, that's where you're going to meet other people who are also doing that thing. And at a certain point, high school is such a small pool if you really think about it. I don't care if you're going to the biggest high school in the country. When you step out of high school and you go off to college or you go get a job, you can move somewhere else. The world is so big. If you think about all of your opportunity being exclusively in that high school pool, that's like trying to pick a water molecule out of a raindrop versus the ocean. It's that big once you get out of high school.
Yeah.
And to put so much pressure on yourself to be these things in high school, I get it. I understand that it sucks to not have those things, especially when you see other people going through them and having the rom-com high school experience. Mm-hmm. But I have a lot of friends that didn't have that.
They probably developed a much deeper character and identity and what truly matters than someone that was quote unquote popular in high school and got all the attention because they had to. They didn't have that handed to them on some surfacey level that wears off. They actually had to develop parts of themselves that weren't easily seen on the surface. I think that those make for some of the most interesting women, the most confident women, most powerful women. And I envy those women. I see those women and it's very amazing. And if I could tell this girl anything, it would be that you are unique. There is no one like you. You are made just like you are for a reason. And you are lovely and lovable and you are loved. And this too shall pass. 16 is a hard age, and you'll struggle with stuff as you get older that's different than this. But don't ever forget just how precious you are and how important you are and how loved you are.
True that. You trying to make me cry?
Hey, it's easy to do.
That's one of your hobbies, and you're pretty good at it. I was close there. You almost got me. But yeah, I agree. Just whatever you do, don't give up. Don't stop believing that something good can happen, because this is just...
This is a season.
It's a season. It's life. One step out of your entire life. It's a very small step. There are people for everybody. It's one of those things like trying to explain to you a UFO. If you didn't see one and I saw a UFO and I was trying to explain to you how crazy and cool it was, and you can't even conceive of it because it's one of those you have to be there things. Yeah. And this is one of those you have to experience it to understand it things. Because at this point in your life, this is everything. But it's not, man. It's not. High school sucks. Mm-hmm. Even if you had a great high school experience, by the time you get through it and you're moving on with your life, you're like, damn, high school sucked. Mm-hmm. Just keep that in mind, because it's this is temporary and it's not worth losing sleep over. I know it feels like it is, and you're going to roll your eyes if you hear this, but I'm just telling you how it is. Keep your head up. You're beautiful.
Amen.
All right. I think that's pretty good. I think 2 questions is pretty good. I think if we go one more, then you're probably going to get me crying. And I don't know that I'm ready for that. I think I might want my first time to be with Will.
Baby steps. Yes. That would be fitting, you and Will, your bromance.
Anna, thank you so much. I appreciate you sitting down, taking the mic, and just owning it. Thank you so much for being open and honest and transparent yourself with what you brought to the table today, which I could never provide. And I just have to say how happy and proud I am that you're my wife. Because, yeah, what else can you say?
And I'm going to say this is not an easy thing for me, but I know how much it means to you and how important it is to you. And I've just seen you grow through this podcast and your book, and I just want to support you through that. So even if I look like a ridiculously awkward co-host, I'm glad I could show up for you.
Some guys have Instagram wives, and you're walking around and you see them taking like 50 pictures, and their girls up there posing.
Yeah, that shit
Now go
ain't
over
me.
here and take this angle. Go over. Now get the light right. Chad, come on, Chad. And then there's women that have podcast husbands. So sorry about that. But yes, you hear about it all the time. And I drag you in, throw you all your shit out there for the world to hear, and you still come to bat for me. So I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure.
All right. We will be back next week. If you hear this and you want to follow up or you have questions about any of this, please feel free to drop us an email. You can go to the website, thathighschoolbook.com. I think there's a link here. If I can figure out how to do that, it'll be here. But yeah, you can email thathighschoolbook@gmail.com. Send us your questions. Send us your feedback. Do you agree, disagree? Comment, share, help spread the word. We're here to help answer some of these questions from time in the life that really sucks, as we just established. And it's a hard time to navigate, whether you're male, female, whatever. That's what Will and I and Anna are trying to do, is give perspective and guidance on some of those tough questions that you sometimes just don't have anyone to ask. So thanks for joining us today. See ya.